The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has disbanded the war cabinet. Let's take a look at what's going on in Israel, and then we're going to move on, and we'll do some more fun news as well today. Like we'll do a variety day.
Developments in the war in Gaza. The Israeli military has announced a daytime pause in the fighting in a narrow strip of territory in the south to allow more aid to get in. And this morning, in a sign of new political...
By the way, before the war cabinet disbanded, okay, let me tell you something, okay? They got fucking smoked. 12 IDF, Israeli occupying force soldiers, got fucking absolutely packed up. Pack watch time for them. Apparently, there was a massive ambush in Rafah. 12 of them just packed up. Straight up, gone. RIP Bozo shit, okay? That's already also happening. That's already also happening in fucking North Gaza, where Israel's supposed to be controlling the territory. So they're not doing all right. They're not doing all right at all. They're getting fucking swept up. Yeah, the Israeli diaper forces are not doing great. Not doing great at all. You know, they smoked a 49-year-old warrant officer and his 23-year-old captain. Yeah, I saw that. A 55-star general got clapped. Okay, bro. Yeah, 19-year-old captains are getting fucking RIP bozoed on a regular basis over here.
Political tensions over the conduct of the war. Israeli Prime Minister, that's Benjamin Netanyahu, disbanded an influential decision-making group. Chris Livesay has that part of the story.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved his war cabinet, once a coalition of rivals meant to sow unity during the conflict in Gaza. That changed last week when Benny Gantz, the leading moderate opponent of the prime minister, resigned over the absence of a plan to govern Gaza after the war. Many have feared Netanyahu would now lurch towards the hard right. The lynch.
Is this good or bad? I mean, there is no good. This is Israel we're talking about. There is no good, only bad, okay? Every single instance of like, you know, instability in Israel literally just moves Israel further to the right for some fucking reason. They are, yeah, is it bad or is it going to get worse? And the answer is it probably will get worse. I don't know. I don't know where the fuck Israel will go from here. I genuinely have no predictions. I'm just in a fucking waiting and watching pattern at this point. Shit is not all right. It's not all right. It hasn't been all right in a while, and it's just getting fucking more and more insane out there.
Of his remaining support. The shakeup comes after Israel announced a tactical pause in the fighting along 7.5 miles of road in the Rafah area during daylight hours to allow more aid. In Gaza and around the Muslim world, it's the Islamic holiday of Eid al-Adha.
Because, like, you got the war cabinet on the one hand in a state of disarray, can't figure out what to do with Gaza. What is the after-war plan for Gaza? There is no after-war plan for Gaza. Obviously, internally, there's a shit ton of commotion within the war cabinet, within the actual government. Like, it's basically like genocide plus ultra, omega genocide, and those are like the three warring factions, right? You got normal genocide guys who are just like, okay, we're doing ethnic cleansing and that's great and that's fine. That's like the Benny Gantz division. And then you got the genocide plus guys who are like the Benjamin Netanyahu division. And then you have the genocide plus ultra guys, which would be like the Bezalel Smotrich and the Itamar Ben-Gvir coalition. The genocide plus ultra guys are basically fucking running around being like, we should do the genocide in Gaza and then do more genocide in Lebanon. Benny Gantz being like the center right person, disbanding or leaving the coalition. Alongside, there's another guy. What was it? The other dude's name. God, the other dude is so lame that he's like not getting any fucking play whatsoever. I'm forgetting. Eisenkot, right? Yeah. So Eisenkot and Benny Gantz left. Benny Gantz is supposed to be like the actual. Was it Eisenkot? What's the fuck's the other guy's name? Yeah, this is pretty funny. Eisenkot accuses Prime Minister of delaying Rafah offensive by 3 months due to political interests. He's the ex-war in interviews, ex-war cabinet observer says Netanyahu's intimidated by the far right and should resign. Says he regrets not pushing harder to extend November truce to get more hostages out. I think this is pretty fair speculation that like Benjamin Netanyahu probably timed this hostage extraction to like say fuck you to Benny Gantz. Like, I think is a valid reason to speculate this. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we're working on this for months, and then he kind of fucking timed it when Benny Gantz was saying like, I'm gonna leave the war cabinet. I'm gonna leave the war cabinet. I have like, you know, bullet points as to why I'm gonna leave the war cabinet, because you fucking suck. You're literally, you are fucking this up. You're fucking the bag up. I'm much better at doing genocide. I am literally the genocide guy. Like, let me do it. I'm the genocide guy. I've done war crimes. I am a general. I will do the right thing. America likes me. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu is like, absolutely not. I don't care. You're a pussy. I'm the one who can, you know, I'm the one who will never allow the Palestinians to have statehood. I've been in this game for far longer than you. You're just like a gay ass general. You don't know your shit. I can continue controlling the Israeli far right and therefore extend my, extend my time as the head of the state so I don't go to prison. I can avoid jail. And that's my primary function here. And it seems like that those internal contradictions have inevitably yielded this implosion within the war cabinet. That's the situation. Meanwhile, you got an untenable situation in southern Gaza. Okay, the Gaza envelope is not exactly restored. People don't want to live there because they're afraid, and also the wounds have not healed, and also the Israeli government is not spending enough money. They're too busy fucking demolishing, Negev and doing internal colonialism instead of just like investing and reinvesting in the Gaza envelope, which they claim they're going to do. Northern Israel is fucking cooked. 60,000 Israelis have left northern Israel. People are just leaving Israel in general. The Israeli government, like the Israeli government is in a state of disarray. The Israeli economy is in a state of disarray. They are so fucking horny to do genocide overall that they're just kind of like, no, this is our main focus right now. People are leaving Israel. Israel is becoming more and more of a fucking social pariah. Its economy is cooked. You don't have the Palestinian slaves that you normally would have, you know, the indentured servitude of Palestinians that you could easily fucking utilize from the Gaza Strip with worker permits. They're gone because obviously now they're like, well, every Palestinian is a terrorist, so like we can't have them in inside of the colony. But yeah, situation is not great. Situation is not great inside of Israel. And of course, as things worsen, as material conditions worsen inside of Israel, what would a fascist administration do? Well, of course, a fascist administration would just like hit the one note that they know how to hit, which is, of course, to try personally and, invade Lebanon. He tweeted a video about you this morning. Haters are going to be plentiful today. I don't think so. It seems to me like we are hater free. So are they going to collapse or what? Can they please hurry up and collapse already? It always feels like every week something happens. It's not going to work. It doesn't work like that. But Israel is currently holding on by a thread. Israel's personally being kept alive by America. That's it. Let's continue.
For this displaced family, taking refuge in a stable. Our hearts break when we hear of people eating Eid sweets, this grandmother tells our CBS News team in Gaza. The Biden administration says Hamas is stalling a deal to release 120 remaining hostages in exchange for a ceasefire. But if this pause holds, it could at least address some of these overwhelming needs as Israeli forces pursue the remaining Hamas brigades in Rafah. In central Gaza, 9 people were killed overnight when a home was struck. Here, the tactical pause does not apply. The fighting goes on.
Tactical
now,
pause.
The war cabinet now...
By the way, you have to remember, this also is, there are logistical issues with delivering aid to every part of Gaza, obviously, because the fucking roads are blown up. That's one issue. Then there's also the secondary problem, which is that Israel refuses to let in aid into Gaza to begin with. even if they do a tactical timeout, even if they fucking do a tactical timeout on the genocide, which they don't actually full-blown timeout on the genocide, they still won't let in a lot of, or the necessary amount of aid. They've increased the amount of aid that is being let in currently in this time frame, but that still is not enough.
Dissolve was also built to bypass those far-right members of Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Well, sources tell CBS News those same far-right ministers will continue to stay outside of the day-to-day decision-making of the war. Gail?
Chris Livesay reporting from Tel Aviv. We thank you.
An Israeli official says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has disbanded the war cabinet, which was responsible for key decisions relating to the Israel-Hamas war. It was formed in the days after the October 7th Hamas attacks. The decision comes after opposition leader Benny Gantz withdrew from the body last week. Meanwhile, Israel's military announced a daily tactical pause along a specific route and specific times to allow for humanitarian aid into Gaza. The IDF later clarified that its troops are still fighting in Rafah and parts of Gaza. CNN's Paula Hancock is joining us now from southern Israel. Paula, let's start with Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to disband his war cabinet. What's behind that decision?
Well, Amara, in the war cabinet, there were always three men who were basically making the decisions, which was the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, and the opposition leader, Benny Gantz. Now, of course, since Gantz has resigned, saying he's in protest of the fact there's
Safest nation for the Jews is so laughable because they literally ship out high school graduates to Gaza to get murked. Bibi and his cabinet is insane. Yeah, dude, you don't understand. It's the safest nation for the Jews. So safe. Except, you know, you can't live in northern Israel any longer because there's fucking wildfires happening all the goddamn time. You don't want to live in the Gaza envelope any longer either. There's uninhabitable parts of the Israeli desert that they are actively trying to destroy the Bedouin Arab communities that exist on top of it, specifically so they can resettle those lands. But ultimately, it's just like not really safe. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe at all. Directly as a consequence of the genocidal ambition that the government has. A genocidal ambition that is absolutely reflected within the population as well, because they're constantly cycling this narrative that Palestinians ain't shit and they deserve less and they're not real fucking humans. So no, you can't fucking claim that this is a safe space when the entire national mythos is built around a fascist ideology of Jewish supremacy and consistent dominance over the indigenous population of the lands that it occupies. It's just not going to happen. One could say that against Israel 1,000 times over, but let's continue.
Plan to get the hostages out, no day after plan for Gaza, and another plan to get people back to northern Israel as well who've been evacuated. It is now effectively a two-person war cabinet. So what he has done is he's disbanded that, and he has said, according to an official in his office, that the decisions when it comes to the war in Gaza will be made on a security cabinet basis, which is a wider cabinet basis. Also saying that, or experts are saying that this kind of avoids the pressure that was coming from the far right of his coalition. Some of those far right elements wanted to be part of the war cabinet. So by disbanding it, potentially he has got rid of that problem as well. He doesn't have to accept or reject them because he does have a balancing act when it comes to his coalition at this point. But they do say within the Prime Minister's office this won't make a difference to actually making the decisions on the war in Gaza. And if they have to, they will have smaller groups to decide tactical changes. Amra?
And regarding that tactical pause, if there is still fighting going on in Rafah and parts of Gaza.
The pause is so tactical, you might not even be able to, if you just, it's so tactical, you might miss it. You know what I mean? I love how tactical the pause is. So, you know, if you're not paying extra close attention to the bombing campaigns, you might actually miss that there is a pause happening at all. You know, in between the tactical pause, again, as we covered already, 9 civilians were fucking murked.
So this is a pause that comes from the Kerem Shalom crossing where we just were, and it goes into Gaza and then up the Salahadin Road, which is effectively the north-south road that runs through Gaza. Now, from the IDF's point of view, they say that they are securing that road, so it will be safe for international aid organizations to distribute aid, which they say is stuck on the Gaza side of the Kerem Shalom border. They say there's more than 1,000 trucks that are there currently. But we've spoken to some of those aid groups, including the UN groups in Gaza, and they say that sometimes it is simply too dangerous for them to be able to get to that crossing and pick up the aid. It's not just the fighting that they're concerned about, it's also the sense of lawlessness. In Gaza, there is a lot of looting. They say it's very dangerous for them to be able to try and distribute the aid. I did ask the IDF spokesperson if there would be some kind of military escort with these trucks to try and get the aid in, and that was not answered. So at this point, it doesn't appear that that would be the case. We've also heard from the Gaza Media Office saying that as far as they're concerned, there's been no tactical pause. So they believe that it is Israeli lies in their words. Now, the IDF has been quite clear that the fighting will continue. It will continue in Rafah, which is very close to where this route is for the tactical pause, as they will be continuing what they have been doing.
It's great. It's like they just get to say whatever the fuck they want, and there's no real mechanism of pushback against Israel, so it doesn't really matter. Like, the tactical pause doesn't actually necessarily mean that there's a real pause. The safe zones doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe at all. And there is no real like rules of war that Israel normally is supposed to abide by. And there is no media apparatus that actually calls it out as it is. The New York Times, as a matter of fact, recently, over the weekend, conducted its investigation, or at least finalized its investigation into what is now known as the Tent Massacre. You guys want to know what the conclusions were? Well, the conclusions were exactly what we've been saying since the beginning of the Tent Massacre, that Israel actually lied about these secondary explosions happening at a munitions depot that was, next to where the target was. Israel lied about that too. They have never stopped lying. At this point, it's like if you're actually paying attention to what Israel is saying and what Israel is doing, there is no fucking way you could ever trust them. There's no fucking way whatsoever. Israel has actually destroyed what kind of trust you could have, what kind of confidence you could have in them being honest by consistently lying over and over again. But it doesn't matter, because no matter what happens, Israel will literally still do the same exact thing, and the fucking dumbasses in the media will still act like what they're saying is correct, what they're saying is honest. I don't know how to manage the situation at this point when people are just like very obviously consistently lying at the behest of the Israeli government, right? At a certain point, you have to start recognizing that the media is complicit in this genocide. According to Channel 12 Israel, Blinken told BB U.S. will remove all limits on weapons transfers. So much for the red line. Oh, nice. Thank God. I doubt it, but I don't know if they'll go that balls to the wall, but we'll see.
Month. Amara?
All right, Paula Hancock's watching this for us from southern Israel. Thank you, Paula. Meanwhile, a U.S. special envoy arrives in Israel Monday as tensions escalate on Israel's northern border with Lebanon. CNN's Ben Wiedemann is joining us now live from Beirut. Ben, UN officials are warning that there is a very real danger of miscalculation escalating the conflict along the Israel and Lebanon's border. What have you learned?
Well, what we've been seeing is that certainly in the last few weeks, things on the border have gotten much hotter in terms of the daily back and forth between Hezbollah and Israel. Although I must add that it's currently a Muslim holiday, and yesterday, at least from Hezbollah's side, they didn't fire anything at the Israelis as far as we can tell. But this envoy, Amos Hochstein, who's the senior energy advisor at the White House, and he's really the point man in dealing with the Lebanon-Israel file for the United States. He's in Israel now. We assume, although it has not been officially announced, that he's going to be coming to Beirut in the coming days. Nonetheless, what is obvious, certainly from statements made by senior Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and the signs we're getting from Hezbollah, is that both sides are primed.
Orenal says the main reason that people care this much about Israel is because Israel is the U.S.'s direct foothold in the MENA region. Contrast that with the genocide of Sri Lanka is committing against the Tamils, where everyone has a material interest in propping up Sri Lanka, where not everyone has a material interest in propping up Israel. Sri Lanka committed the exact same war crimes we're seeing in Gaza right now to the letter. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the same reason as to why people, I mean, this community is not one of them, but like I talked extensively about Myanmar, right? But a lot of people didn't. And that is because it's happening over there. It's like, I don't really understand it. And who cares? Whereas like we as American citizens have a direct fucking involvement in Israel's affairs, a direct involvement in Israel's affairs. And we are so goddamn connected. It is akin to like America doing Israel style actions in Afghanistan and Iraq. And plenty of people were fucking critical of that too. So
for escalation.
Not that it matters though, because it's just pure whataboutism.
Goes out from South Lebanon in slick propaganda videos accompanied by a stirring soundtrack. Hezbollah is ready to go from daily skirmishes to full-scale war with Israel. Mired in what appears to be an unwinnable war in Gaza, Israel has vowed to turn its military might on Hezbollah. Earlier this month, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the border, saying, "We are prepared for very strong action in the north." But the Iranian-backed group is by far the most formidable, battle-hardened foe Israel has faced on its borders since the 1970s.
Listen, bro, the fucking Israeli diaper brigades can't even fucking do anything against like against guerrilla warfare of like recently orphaned fucking teenagers, okay? Like not all of the Hamas militants or the Al-Qassam brigades or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad brigades, like not all of them are super fucking highly trained individuals, okay? They don't have like an incredible amount of combat experience. Hezbollah, on the other hand, does have an incredible amount of combat experience due to all of the operations that they conduct in the region in general. Okay, Hezbollah is also incredibly well armed in comparison to Hamas. They're not making fucking Yasin rockets in a goddamn bathtub and deploying it on like $500 Yasin rockets they fucking make off of like components that they grab from the ground of like Israeli munitions that or Israeli ordnance that doesn't fucking explode or whatever. Okay, they have their own missile facilities. So ultimately, a war or an invasion into Lebanon, into southern Lebanon, is going to be history repeating itself. It will definitely be horrifyingly bad for everyone involved, but certainly for Israel. Unless Israel can directly get America to be involved. I doubt that America wants Israel to go into Lebanon because that kind of broader regional conflict will awaken Iran and will genuinely cause problems. Like that is like World War III territory at that point. They have an actual standing military. They're actually experienced. Israel already is having a fucking hard time with this like counterinsurgency shit that they're trying to do in Gaza. They're not going to be able to do that in southern Lebanon at all.
73 October War. After its guerrillas forced Israel to pull out of South Lebanon 24 years ago, in 2006, Hezbollah fought Israel to a standstill. Although the war left parts of Beirut and much of southern Lebanon in ruins. Retired Lebanese army.
That, by the way, is the Dahiyya Doctrine. Eisenkot is one of the fucking architects have said the Dahiyya Doctrine, the person that we mentioned earlier. The Dahiyya Doctrine is just basically declaring the entire area to be enemy combatants and deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure. They are doing that in Gaza as well, obviously, and they want to do that in Lebanon once again. Ultimately, however, it's mass murder of civilians and destruction of mass murder of civilians and destruction of civilian infrastructure is not necessarily going to yield positive results for Israel in general.
Brigadier General Elias Hanna knows the militant group well.
Hezbollah is
yeah, here it is. Here's the proof of what I was saying. Israel must target civilian infrastructure in Lebanon. The pressure Hezbollah, IDSF head says. IDSF CEO Lieutenant Colonel Yaron Buskila discussed Israel's escalation with Hezbollah, emphasizing the need to hold both Hezbollah and Lebanon accountable. They have one fucking speed, bro. They have one speed. One speed. That's it. And that's just bloody murder of the entire civilian infrastructure and civilian population. Isn't that terrorism? Yes, it is. But when it's a state doing it, especially a state that is aligned with the U.S., they get to do it. And it's not considered terrorism. Terrorism is resisting against such actions of terror.
Exclusive club, well-disciplined, monitored, and they have, which is the most important issue, a charismatic leader, Sayyid Hasan Nasrallah.
Since October, Israeli strikes have killed more than 300 Hezbollah fighters, including last week high-ranking commander Talib Abdullah given a hero's.
Do you think the nature of war has changed so much that there cannot be any more real clear victories without total population wipeout? I think that they just used to do total population wipeout back in the day. Settler colonies before the advent of the internet or, or any kind of media apparatus. When in the old days of telegram, carrier pigeons, people would just do that shit. And we would just kind of learn about it after the fact. History is riddled with these kinds of settler colonial actions. This country is literally built on top of settler colonial genocide upon the indigenous population. The difference is doing it in 2024 hits a little bit different. You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy to do it in 2024 because people are like, what do you mean? This is like what I learned in the history books about what we shouldn't be doing. So when it's happening in real time and it's happening in a like post-World War II universe where like we have this supposed rule-based international order that a lot of people take for granted, all of a sudden the dynamic is very different. You can't be fucking laying siege on an entire civilian population like this. There's rules that you are supposed to abide by. Rules that even like America technically was supposed to abide by, even though it didn't necessarily abide by those rules, but never to the same degree as fucking Israel even. So that is the major problem here. One, Israel is not America, right? It's supposed to be an independent nation from the United States of America. Two, even though America did a shit ton of brutality and has done a shit ton of brutality and continues to do a shit ton of brutality, even in like Iraq and Afghanistan, what Israel is doing is basically like the first day of the Iraqi invasion, but for 8 months. Think about that. Like after the invasion of Iraq, basically America would still bomb villages, of course, regularly, but like they've never stopped doing shock and awe. Imagine if they never stopped doing shock and awe and just reduced the entirety of the densely civilian populated areas into rubble non-fucking stop.
Farewell in Beirut. At the funeral, senior Hezbollah leader Hashem Safiuddin warned, "We will increase our operations in intensity and force, in quantity and quality." Analysts believe Iran has provided Hezbollah with an arsenal of sophisticated long-range missiles capable of reaching Tel Aviv and beyond. Until now, Hezbollah has mostly limited its strikes to military targets along the rugged mountainous frontier, hitting Israel's extensive...
I was timed out for 10 minutes because I asked about your Houthi interview. The dude wasn't a Houthi. He was a Yemeni teenager. I don't know what this is, but you got timed out because you were constantly fucking posting this shit over and over again. So I don't know what is this? Israel's trying to start a war with Lebanon? What the fuck are you saying? Do you know how many times I had to run with my pregnant wife to the nearest bomb shelter because Hezbollah relentlessly firing rocket towards us civilians? You're fucking pathetic. Move. Anyway, let's continue.
Network of surveillance posts. It also says it has taken out an Iron Dome battery, the backbone of Israel's missile defenses, and has used ground-to-air missiles to shoot down 3 top-of-the-line Hermes 900 drones. In the process, forcing tens of thousands of Israelis to flee their homes in the north. Hezbollah is learning faster than Israel can adapt, says Hanna.
You know, they are learning. It's like learning process. It's like trial and error. So as far as you go in time, you are seeing more intensity, more combined use of weapon, and then more in depth and more in effectiveness against the Israelis. And
I know people who are Jewish and are opposed to Israel and the genocide in Gaza, but still think birthright is fair game because it's just a free trip on someone else's dime. Do you have thoughts on this? Yeah, I personally also used to think like whatever, you know, anti-Zionist or Zionist, like go on birthright. But a lot of people that I do care about, whose opinions I do care about, have said it is infinitely better not to participate in birthright whatsoever because it is a direct fucking propaganda mission. It is indoctrination happening, so don't.
what is the problem? That the Israelis have no answer for that.
Since October, Israel has bolstered its forces on the border and held
Not everyone is going to be like Adam Friedland.
to prepare for war. Hezbollah is also ready for war, a war that is just one miscalculation away. Now, Mr. Hochstein is probably trying to convince the Israelis now is not a good time, given the situation in Gaza, to jump into a war with Lebanon. And of course, in Lebanon, given Hezbollah's strength and abilities to strike well inside Israel, the price for Israel would be very high. But Prime Minister Netanyahu is under intense pressure from the public in Israel to allow those people who fled the north to go back home. So they're really in a bind. Now, the one solution, and what has been seen before, is that in late November of last year, when there was an 8-day halt in the fighting in Gaza and there was a release of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and detainees, the border along between Lebanon and Israel was quiet. Hezbollah has made it clear, if the fighting stops in Gaza, the border will be quiet. So probably a ceasefire is the best solution all around. Amara?
Ben Wiedemann in Beirut for us. Thank you so much.